Hi, Misha here, and it's the first day of daylight savings time, and to my mind, the first day of spring. I was kind of argued with the starting on like March 20th thing. Well, last year we did a video talking about it's kind of the golden age of roller lock guns, namely 9mm, but 223s as well, and 308s. And in that video, we looked at a couple of different MP5 types. I never have been a big fan of the so-called HK slap guys. Sorry. Always reliable. Not bad. But one type, not in that video, is this. The new to me, and pretty new to the market, Turkish MKE AP5SD. These are imported by Century Arms, chambered for 9mm. They're a civilian legal version of the MP5-SD, mostly. We'll talk about it in the video. And this is an important model in the MP5 family that we've just never talked about. But before that, let's run a few rounds through it, and we'll start off with 124 grain, so basically NATO spec stuff. And again, it's the Phoenix with an F ammo that we've been using. It's nice and clean. It's American reloaded stuff, yes, but we've had no issues out of it. But let's see how this gun handles it. That is soft shooting. While I have confidence in MKE's products, we've actually been showing off their roller guns since the beginning of the channel. I wasn't 100% sure about this brace, and of course, brand new mag, different ammo. But I have to say, that was one of the most pleasant, frankly fun, first shooting experiences I've had in a while. As far as the markings, no surprise, caliber marking and company marking. As you can see, it is actually marked SD. Made in Turkey. Imported by Century Arms. Look, Century Arms has a reputation, but as an importer, they brought over some really cool stuff, including the handful of French FAMASas in America. So yeah, some of the most expensive semi-autos in this country have Century Arms marks on them. AP5SD commemorates the original Heckler & Koch MP5-SD. Let's talk about the history, and then we'll get back trying out some more ammo. Uzi. Most of you know, but it might surprise some to learn that the MP5 was not standard issue within the West German Bundeswehr, the standing army. Of course, the Bundeswehr was established in 1956, started to equip in 57. This is where we get a lot of things like the G3 and the P1 pistol. No, actually, just at that same time, they adopted the Uzi submachine gun. Yeah, the Israeli gun, as the MP2, Mishaco Pistol 2. That was the fixed stock. When the underfolding stock version came out, it was adopted as the MP2A1. Fun story, Uzi Gao was actually born in Germany in 1923, although his family immigrated right when Hitler took over in 1933, so they didn't see the worst of it. But of course, they moved to Palestine and thereon and thereforth. So it's kind of interesting. And we're not talking small numbers. The Bundeswehr had over 115,000 Uzis at one time. So that was their primary submachine gun. And to be fair, when it was selected in 1958-59, it was one of the best in the world. But fast forward into the 1960s, and needs change. And of course, it's not just the Bundeswehr. 1964, Walther, you know I love me some Walthers, was actually the first West German company authorized and able to make sound suppressors. Remember, we're still kind of getting over the World War II restrictions. And they would make a full-size submachine gun called the MPL, and a compact version, the MPK, and the K version especially was meant to be suppressed, kind of early days. And so Walther pioneered that at this era. But those are kind of forgotten at the time, because HK just came out with what was known originally as the MP64, soon renamed to MP5 by 1966. Through 68, 69, you see kind of the updates and revisions to modernity. The earliest MP5s look a little funky. But they first released it with a fixed stock, and then the collapsing stock would come out. It's gone through several iterations, but the one we're familiar with started to appear around 1970 and would be further updated. So that let it be kind of compact. And of course, these are all chambered for 124 grain NATO spec 9mm as we know it. And while the Bundeswehr was happy with the MP2, others like the BGS, the border guards, German police, some German special forces, and the German Navy, well, they wanted a different submachine gun. We tried it out with the NATO spec ammo. Let's try it with some more common and lighter stuff. Let's try it with the 115. Honestly feels about the same as the 124. Ran fine there too. That was again Phoenix ammo. So how do we get from the standard MP5 to the SD? Actually, this was the first major variant in the whole family. It predated the K, the PDW, all that. Already by 1968, kind of looking at what Walther had done with their own suppressors, HKs thought we need to find a way to suppress our new fancy submachine gun. So you start to see patents filed in 71, 72, and you see the first complete prototypes by 1974, and then it goes on to the market as the MP5-SD, the suppressed version. And while of course you could just screw on the suppressor to the end of any submachine gun, you're going to make it kind of long and kind of awkward, and most suppressors, really all of them at the time if I could think of it, wouldn't do well with 124 grain ammo. It would still be supersonic, have that crack. Most of them needed special ammo, but the requirements were that it could shoot standard ammo. Various reasons for that, mostly just commonality. Now again, I'm not going to say the Bundeswehr never had any, but it was mostly special forces. GSG-9 would end up with some. The German Navy, as I said, a lot of police, the border guards. You know, there was that need. And keep in mind, at this point, you just have the MP5A2, MP5A3, both with a barrel about 8.8 inches long, and they had an overall length with the fixed stock of about 27 inches, and when you went to the collapsing stock, it was a little bit longer at about 27.5, but you could collapse it in and get down to about 21.5, two positions. So you saved about 6 inches, and it was just so easy to deploy. But it did add weight. I have to say the A3 was always heavier than the A2, because the A2 just has pretty much a hollow plastic buttstock, you know, roughly weighing about 5.7, 5.8 pounds unloaded, with the collapsing stock version about 6.2, 6.3 pounds unloaded, because it's a solid steel thing with an end cap. Kind of depends exactly which variant you have. And none of them were really good with a suppressor. This is really before you see a lot of the work with the muzzle in the first place. In second place, you would be really extending that length out either way. So yeah, HK got to work with this version From behind the chamber rearward, same as before. It took the same magazines. I should point out that the curved mags were not actually introduced until around 1977, so it was the early straight style. But the barrel assembly was actually totally different. I should also say that the bolt group was altered a bit and lightened, and also would get a different locking piece. But we went to a modified cocking tube, and we have this very heavily modified handguard, which is a rubber material with a metal framework underneath. And they shortened the barrel down to roughly 5.7, 5.8 inches. This would be the very first short barrel gun. However, the sight radius is still standard. That was to make room for the integral suppressor. Although it was always, with the original, still you could unscrew it and detach it. But everything was specialized, and you probably know this better than I do. That was so it could fire 124 grain, but it's subsonic. So it literally slowed it down roughly 20% to go under the sound barrier and to delete the crack. Also, the whole system was set up to let it be as compact as possible. I do have some 147 grain from Phoenix, which you typically use with the suppressor. Grain. It's working fine. Alrighty, 3 types thing. Now we have to talk about the AP5SD here. This is a hollow tube. It's basically a standby. That's because going all the way back to the Gun Control Act in 1968, Title I Class 3 things were prohibited for importation for the civilian market. So SBRs and suppressors, not to mention machine guns, could no longer be imported and just straight up sold. There were a couple of loopholes because of police use and stuff, but yeah. This actually changed a lot, and this is why Colt actually went away from the XM177 moderator. But I digress. So what they do here is very clever. They just have this dummy on. By the way, throughout the shooting, it did not work loose. It's just a hollow tube. Long threads on this. This is threaded half by 28. I don't believe the originals would have been half by 28, of course. Probably some weird HK thread pitch. It's light enough, I'm going to say alloy, but it's also thin enough. This might be steel, but I believe it's an alloy tube. And then you can see inside here, maybe, there is a barrel. What MKE or Century did was they put essentially an MP5 PDW barrel in here. Now, a lot of sources say it's got an MP5K barrel. That's not correct. The MP5K, which was not out in 1974, actually had a 4.5-inch barrel because it had that hammerhead look with no threading or anything on the end. It's the MP5K or MP5K PDW, MP5 PDW, whichever you'd like to call it, that came out much later, that extended the barrel to 5.8 inches to give room for threading in a tri-lug. Incidentally, literally the exact same length of barrel as the MP5-SD. So that's pretty neat that we have the actual length barrel. Now this is not the same type of barrel because the original barrel, same length, but was different. It was ported to vent gas out. Right as the bullet started to travel out of its casing, it would let gas off. So it was a completely ported barrel, slowing things down. And they did not do that here. And I don't blame them. The suppressor was a 2-stage device, the original one, and it was also made of an aluminum alloy to save on weight. It was longer back, pretty much going over the entire barrel, and the second half, the closer half to the chamber, caught those porting out of the barrel and vented them, and then the forward half, after the 5.8 inches, had kind of triangular shaped baffling to work as a suppressor. And what was neat, not only was it lighter weight, it was actually designed to be very cheap to mass produce or replace. So HK was really ahead of their time with their suppressor technology. Got to give them credit. Not only was it effective, it in fact slowed NATO ammo down to where it needed to be, but it was cost effective. Something we don't think about HK a lot today, but they were. They were a good economical solution. After all, the MP5 is stamped in welded steel, whatnot. So it worked. So why am I not disappointed they didn't replicate this here? Because, frankly, while this was great technology for the 1970s, it was very specific. And it also meant that the MP5-SD could not really be fired without its sound suppressor. I mean, I guess technically it could, but I don't know what would happen. I should also mention that this rubber handguard, in addition to protecting from heat and buildup, further dampened sound. That's why it's not really ported. So what they did was give us the right length barrel, but as we've already seen, you can use any type of ammo, and we can attach any type of modern sound suppressor as long as it'll fit inside here. You get half by 28 and tri-lug, so good options there. You can surely make something work. But I know what you're asking. Shooting it suppressed. This is Fox POF full size with the Silencer Co. hybrid, and it has the Phoenix 147 grain subsonic in it. Bink. Good. Kind of sounds like someone's using a nail gun.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So yeah, even over here it's nice and quiet.
Yeah, these are great. What a beautiful day.
Yeah, now let's try that for the SD.
Let's do it.
So with that baseline out of the way, took the dummy one off, put the Silencer Co. on. As you see, it fits inside with just a little bit. It's just slightly smaller diameter than the original, so it fits in no problem. And I think it does stick out just a little bit more, but it's nice to be compacted in there. So let's see how she shoots. All right, here we go. First silenced, hopefully, shots out of the SD. Bing. I love how you can hear the bullets actually traveling.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Now Fox is gonna give her a go.
Oh, dude. How does it get any better than
Man, that combo between that ammo from Phoenix, that gun, and that suppress that works.
Yeah, this slaps, dude. That get it slap. You talk about a great setup. This is it.
And I do think it was slightly quieter than your POF.
I'll give you that.
I think because the interface between the suppressor and the barrel is in there.
Closed and closed, maybe?
Yeah, I think it just helps just a little bit. Not much.
Yeah.
And work it does. Very easy to reattach this. Even though it's pretty much just a placeholder to give it the right look. It does also function as a flash hider, which was one of the other benefits of a sound suppressor. Definitely covert. And again, it doesn't unscrew. And it definitely looks right, and it doesn't add much weight. And that was the goal. They wanted a gun that really wouldn't be much heavier or longer than a standard. And they mostly succeeded. The fixed stock MP5-SD was just over 31 inches. So they were adding, just about 4 inches overall length. And the collapsing stock version, when the stock was deployed, was about 31.5 inches. And if you collapse that in, you're at about 26 inches. So, you know, a little longer, but not too bad. Weight-wise, well, I mean, nothing's for free. The fixed stock version was about 6.2, 6.3 pounds. So about like the folding or the collapsing stock standard version. And if you put the collapsing stock on the SD, your weight would jump to about 6.7, 6.8 pounds. So heavier, but for that era and time, you know, compact suppressed version, that wasn't bad, guys. And the fact that you could use standard mags, standard ammo, and they are constantly refining the MP5 in this era. If you look in the 70s and 80s and even 90s, the change list HK is doing, and that's why it is such a success, not to mention reliable. And that reliability is carried over to the semi-auto. Around the same time the MP5-SD was first introduced, HK also began offering the 4-way trigger pack. So, safe, single, burst, either 2 or 3, auto. And this would be revised and updated over the years, eventually going to the ambidextrous Navy style. And these would be like the MP5A4, MP5A5, and so on and so forth. And of course, these would also be combined with the MP5SD. In fact, there were a total of 6 official variations of this gun in the HK catalog by the 80s, mostly switching out different stocks and trigger packs. The front end really didn't change that much. And that's actually another kind of exciting thing this gun brings to the table, not just the front end, but this Navy style blower. And this does seem like it's going to be a component, including being semi-automatic, that they're going to sell separately. So that's pretty cool for clone folks out there. So not only is it a cool trigger pack, original HK Navy styles kind of go for big bucks, and it has the right markings. It feels good too. It feels like good quality. Not a bad trigger for a roller locked HK type either. Of course, no hold open except the one you make. The MP5SD was ahead of its time, and that's why it inspired so many people. It was considered one of the best, maybe the best suppressed submachine guns in the world. It appeared in lots of movies. I don't know how many were actually purchased. This was such a special purpose, the gun, because you're, as you said earlier, stuck to using suppressed, which is great when you need it. But you do sacrifice range, accuracy. You do have to clean it more often. But one benefit this had, you didn't have to get special ammo. Most other suppressed guns at the time needed special. Try it with the brace in, so basically more like a traditional pistol. Not a lot of pushback recoil, but it has that typical twisted up and to the right. That's what kind of made a lot of the pistols like the SP-85 back in the 80s, 90s less attractive before braces came along. Out at the cabin, I didn't bring the full case. These do come with 2 mags, metal, MKE brand. The old Zeniths did have 3, so that's one small thing they cut, but considering most guns today only come with 1. They also do come with a sling. It is a 2-point double hook. This is not it. This is actually a sling I had that came off a Swiss MP5. Got it kind of dogged in though. But I went with this because A, there's not a hook on the back for an HK sling on this stock. And B, I didn't want to put a metal hook up here that would bang against my handguard, because if this rubber gets damaged, there's no real easy way to replace it. So I thought going this route would just make more sense. Plus, you know, it's a silenced gun. Run that. It also came with the cleaning kit. It came with the claw scope mount of questionable quality, if I'm being straight. It came with an actual printed owner's manual. And it came with the alternative end cap, the one that it probably shipped from Turkey with. This is neat. It has a hole in the back, presumably for probably a QD socket, and then it has a small vertical piece of pick rail, and then it even has a little like Uncle Mike style stud. So you have lots of options when you get this. If you don't like the brace, you can put that on and use the pick rail to put any other brace on, or even stock on if you found something like that, or take that all off and run a QD point in the back, kind of MP5A1 style. I love options, and that's neat that they included that piece. They could have so easily not and saved $5. So kudos to MKE and Century for throwing in some extras, even though these are almost the cheapest roller guns that we've seen in a while. Mag ran fine too. They seem to work. Absolute 100% reliability, no issues. First ride out of the box. Didn't lube it up, didn't really clean it, didn't give it a break-in period, gun or mags. It just ran with 3 different types of ammo. Again, 115, 124, 147 grain. I will admit it was all the Phoenix stuff. I should try it out soon, maybe with some steel case. I'm sure we can find something that doesn't run, but it felt good. It ejected consistently. They weren't dribbling out. Recoil was very pleasant. I've got a fun thing to do just to see how reliable this really is. This would be fun. I loaded in alternating 124 and 115 grain each and every. Let's see how it does. Also, I fully loaded the Turkish mag. Well, doesn't seem to have a problem. No issues. And I will say, inserting the mag when it was loaded was not a problem. There's a little hitch there where the bolt goes over it, probably just new, but it should wear in. And that's actually great. We're getting mags, be they the POF or the MKE these days, because believe it or not, there was a time when MP5 mags were pretty hard to find, and when you did, they were easily $50 to $100. And that was $100 back when that would easily buy you 2 weeks worth of groceries. I remember very clearly. So not only we're in the golden age of the firearms themselves, with or without braces, magazines and accessories like the trigger pack. Thoughts, conclusions, first impressions. This is a look. This is a vibe. If you're not into the MP5-SD, frankly, there's no reason to get this. Get one of the other models available out there. And I think it's neat. They could have so easily just put a threaded cap in there and called it a day, but to at least give us a dummy can means for, you know, photos and just the balance, the feel, it's on point. But I'm also actually really glad they didn't strictly replicate the SD barrel, because then you would have had to run a suppressor, and finding a clone copy of an HK SD suppressor, they're out there, but again, because of 68 gun control, you can't just import them. You have to get a US made one, and they're very, very specific to what they do. So I think this is a nice compromise between clone correct and authentic and practical for 2025 shooting. That said, I've seen guys pull the barrel and put in an SD barrel. You can do that because the outer part of the cage, as it's called, is correct. We'll try it with the brace collapsed in again. Not as much twisty twist, I'll give it that credit. But a lot more fun. Bing! That is fun. Is this a keeper? Well, it has a sling on it. I think so. I think it really kind of completes my collection of MP5 types. And I think the reason I have so many, at least for me, I'm not one that usually has multiples of guns, is because for so many years we just couldn't get good quality ones for good money. And the fact that they're so available today, it's hard to say no. Plus, you know, these are the kind of guns that if you get in a bind in the future, I'm not saying you will, but if you want, these are easy to sell because they're all so iconic. All the MP5 variants, really HKs in general, they hold their value on the secondary market very well. And this should just be the channel mantra. Imports always go away. Sooner or later, we will stop getting the AP5. But yeah, an impromptu video. We've been getting a lot of cool HK-inspired guns lately. What do you think? What's your favorite of the AP series? Or maybe you like the POFs. Or maybe you only want the SP5s. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer. I don't think there is. I just think we're spoiled for choices, and we should be mighty appreciative to that. Also, I think we have to keep in mind there's a huge difference between Century built and Century import.
And let's go ahead and get the brace out. Had to do a few of those too.
Yeah.
Golly.
Any final thoughts before we let her cool off?
Yeah, I think it's the greatest thing ever. I think if you don't own one of these and you're looking to get a 9mm suppressed, look no further. And what's cool is when you break it down and look at a multi-cal can, you can jump this from gun to gun. However, with this, I don't think I would want to remove it, so I just get a 9mm.
Yeah, find what looks the part,
Yeah,
get it on there nice and tight, and call it a day.
But this thing is just, it's it, man. This is the gun. This is what you want.
It's pretty neato.
It is neato.
And MKE, they build good guns. Really is a nice trigger on this too. And yes, I know the brace has that little squeaky noise. I'll oil it. Not a big deal. Anyway, appreciate you tuning in. We're going to be covering quite a few HK and German guns throughout the next month or so. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't, check out some of the older MP5 videos we've done. I am not an HK expert. Just a big fan, big enthusiast. Also really like that Uzi. So feel free to discuss in the comments below. Love to hear what you guys are thinking. If you'd like to help support us, please check out Patreon. If not, just liking, sharing, subscribing, you know the deal. We're making it. We're doing better, but we really need support and help. Because totally independent channel, self-funded, not bought out by big gun tube. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Not part of any network or anything, so totally for you guys and fans ourselves, and tend to do videos on guns that I find personally interesting, and it's great when you do too. It's nice when we agree. So maybe we'll do more suppressor videos. You never know. I'm starting to get won over by a few guns. And they're starting to get a lot more affordable. I wish they'd just deregulate suppressors altogether. It's kind of silly that, you know, they're still on the registry. If anything else, it's kind of a health issue. Recently had that video on EarPro. Imagine how much health insurance money would be saved if people were allowed to have suppressors easy enough. Maybe half our grandpas wouldn't be deaf now. I digress. Nice day, though. Appreciate you tuning in, hanging out. This is Misha. Catch you very soon.